Okay, so I have forked the clean MCP server GitHub repo, and I have pasted the prompt from the article in the links below. I've made sure that the agent is in agent mode, and I've also set the model to 3.7 Sonnet. Also made sure that cursor is in auto execute mode from the setting. This is very similar to the turbo mode in Windsurf. Okay, so let's try and execute this and see if it can get it done in one prompt. Okay, right off the bat, it has started looking at planning.md. It's created a source folder, which is different. And it looks like it is going to go the project by project.toml route. So now it's creating the first bit of code. So far, I have no indication of what library it's going to use. It's been clearly instructed to use fast MCP. So let's see if it does that. Okay, around 350 lines of code. It's creating the package file. Yep, it's creating a project.toml. It's paying attention to documentation as it was clearly instructed in the cursor rules. Okay, so unlike Vinsurf, it is going to go ahead and create tests. Okay, here's the tricky bit. Will it be able to find the MCP configuration file for cursor? Looks like it hasn't. Instead, it's chosen to create a local one, which I guess is going to be picked up by cursor at some point. So it's finalizing the task.md file. We should see some edits soon. Okay, it definitely looks like it's done more than what Windsurf did in the first shot. It's now editing the local mcp.json file. And one thing to note is that it didn't really cross-check or try to run the MCP server like Windsurf did. So I'm not 100% on whether it will actually work because it didn't really test it out. And I also didn't see any installation of any packages. So let's see. So long story short, the first prompt from the cursor agent, it really didn't work. We already noticed that it hadn't really tested it, so it's not really a surprise that the first prompt didn't work. So if I scroll up, basically the first prompt didn't work, and long story short, I spent an hour prompting 4 or 5 times to the cursor agent, and it went into terrible error loops, and basically also messed around with my local Python environment for installing packages. So it didn't really go the venv route. I ended up prompting it for using venv or virtual environments, and that too didn't really work. As you can see, the file system MCP server that it just implemented didn't really load in cursor setting, and it gave a rather unfriendly client closed message. This is stark contrast to Windsurf, where the error messages were clear and displayed in the Windsurf settings itself. It is giving me how to get to errors. So basically I need to open a terminal and then go to output and select cursor MCP. The error message are rather unfriendly, nothing not really a very clear message. I did feed the error message back to cursor agent, but it was not very good and went into error loops to fix the issue. So what I'll do is I'll quickly go through my prompts and what I did. The second prompt, after realizing that the MCP server is not loading, took around 40 minutes and 50 plus tool calls with nothing really to show for it. So I also mentioned in the prompt that I did not really notice the agent installing any packages. It did install and took a lot of tool calls to get this done, whereas Windsurf had used virtual environments off the bat and had installed it in the first prompt itself. It decided in the second prompt that it should test the server by executing a command. However, the command executed specifically in when it tried to execute the test server or the server itself, it hung up uh, for a good 5 minutes. It did give me a skip option, so I clicked the skip option, which it interpreted as an error and went into another error loop to fix random things. At the end of it, it didn't really manage to make the server work, as you can see from the cursor settings. And yeah, so the second prompt was 40 minutes with nothing to show for it and 50 plus calls. One thing to note from the second prompt is that in one of its error loops, it decided to make a more boilerplate MCP server, which I don't really get because in its context, it has the Python SDK README file, which has boilerplate implementations, which I've used manually before, and it is really straightforward to get a simple server running. It struggled to get the simple server running, and again, while executing, it hung up for a good 5 minutes. Doesn't seem to have the intelligence to see to detect a hung up command, and there doesn't seem to be any timeouts. Okay, so it used the MCP server implementation, tried to load it into MCP setting, which didn't work. And after all the error loops for a good 40 minutes, it declared that it is now working, which it is not. So the next prompts were me trying to get it to use virtual environments instead of messing around with my local Python environment. Didn't work. So that is where I stopped, and I will upload this project for you guys to look at the generated code. If you can get it to work, leave a comment for me and a link for your GitHub. I'd be very interested in seeing it. That is it. In conclusion, Windsurf is really leagues ahead in its game of its agentic behavior. It took exactly 5 minutes, whereas I wrestled for an hour to get this simple MCP server working with the same context, same documentation, same prompt, and Cursor really struggled with it. So it is really lagging behind. Thanks for watching.